skip once and I...
And we are live. Hi, Mom. Come on, boss.
Now I'm a boss?
You are. You were the boss before.
Well, it is Friday night. We are at the...
Thank God.
We are at the Hive in Joplin, Missouri.
I like the name of this place, The Hive. Makes me feel like a superhero.
There you go. We just need capes.
I have a cape at work.
You have a cape at home.
I have a cape at home. That's a cloak, though, not really a cape.
Yeah, that's true.
I could make you a cape.
But,
This is Paranormal Science Lab Live. I'm John.
I'm Lisa.
Since Lisa's not doing it.
I'm Benton. I'm Tristan.
I'm Mom.
Something to that nature.
Yes. It's been quite a week.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
It's because Mercury's in retrograde.
I don't put a lot of faith in that, but you know,
It's got to be true.
something's got to be.
It's been in retrograde a lot in the last 6
It has.
months,
And
too.
Yeah.
then something about the moon's in Sagittarius or something.
I don't know. I'm going to give a full moon if this crap keeps up. I'm going to start mooning everybody. Ooh.
So anyways, what's the topic tonight?
Ooh, Tristan.
You are the topic.
Okay, that's fine. What do you want to know?
What is this topic? Prosperity Schoolhouse. The bed and breakfast over in Prosperity, Missouri.
And we're also going to talk about a few myths about haunted places. Whether places that people assume are haunted and they aren't, and vice versa. And
Well, we shouldn't say they aren't, because some are
Some.
sometimes.
Right, but
Take
as
cemeteries, for instance.
a general rule.
As a general rule, those cemeteries aren't generally haunted.
That's true. I mean,
Who the hell wants to hang out at a cemetery?
I do.
I mean,
Well,
after you're gone.
after
I
you're
still
gone.
do.
That's because you're
Were
weird.
you talking more about modern day cemeteries or any in general?
I would say any in general.
Mhm. You know, there are some reasons that certain cemeteries do have activity,
Right.
but just as a general rule, my experience, the spirit doesn't hang around its tombstone. Now, if you have land where people were murdered or unmarked graves, things like that. Peace Church Cemetery in Joplin is a good example. There's mass graves there of Civil War soldiers, and that contributes to a lot of the activity.
The mic is over here.
Yeah. It's a big shiny metal
She was
thing.
talking to me.
Oh, it's all right.
Sorry, audience.
Sorry, it's been a long week, and but
It's like trying to herd goats
herd cats.
or chickens. You ever tried to herd a chicken?
No.
Cats are worse.
I don't think so.
Not our cat. You pet him once and he follows you.
Yeah, you can herd our cat with a can of soft food.
Well, there you go.
So yeah, there was quite a bit of activity at the Peace Church.
I think so. I think it has a lot to do with the activities there. I mean, there were burials there before it was ever a graveyard. You had the Civil War activity. I mean, there's cemeteries where people actually died there. You know, that's
Well, there's
interesting.
unmarked graves in that cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
There's the guy that thinks he's a woman,
Yeah,
and
Ronald.
There's a gentleman there that's known for serial killing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And his grave was moved and unmarked.
right. So he
Billy
has
Cook.
So he's all kinds of disturbed. He was disturbed before he was dead. Now he's really disturbed.
Right.
So what is the possibility of like a pauper's grave? Would those generally be not?
I think sometimes, but
I would say if they're still marked or not. You know.
well, usually
Generally they're not, though.
Generally they're not, or they just have a little stone and maybe have a number on them.
Well, there you go. That's marked.
Yeah, but they're not identified, and
Which that place has.
yeah.
So generally then you're saying that these entities they last were before they passed on, or
Sometimes,
I think it's just it could be whatever. Yeah.
or just someplace that had a connection for them,
Yeah.
good or bad.
Yeah, because where have we've gotten evidence where they didn't. I mean, they weren't. That wasn't their last location, but that's where they showed where they were hanging out.
Actually, like Grandma and Grandpa, they were both, neither one at home. Well, Grandma kind of was,
Kinda.
but she was pronounced dead at the hospital. And Grandpa was definitely at the hospital.
Yeah.
But you
They're
know,
both back at the house now.
right? But you know, that's
Yes.
where they're comfortable. You know, so that makes sense. You know, and I think it has a lot to do with that. I think sometimes when people are sort of at that place of their last moment, and if it's not someplace that had a connection for them, it's because it was very traumatic, sudden, that kind of thing. You know, the tragic car wreck or, you know, some sort of battle or tragic accident type thing.
That would be more residual, though, right? Not generally intelligent.
I think there's both. I mean,
I think, in my opinion, of course, you've been doing this longer than I have, but I think a residual, if it was fast, it would be mostly residual, like a replaying a tape.
well, I think that does happen a lot of times, but not even always because it happened like that.
Or
You know?
dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's one of the ladies in my house that just seems to replay the same thing over
And she
and
don't
over.
make a damn bit of cookies.
Yeah, she could
Does
all
a
day.
damn thing all the time and never makes a cookie, ever.
So in the kitchen all the time
Well, would you
cooking.
eat it if she did?
If it was good, I would. Have you met me, Mom?
Yeah.
40 years old. Have I ever seen me turn down a cookie?
No.
All right, then.
So it definitely seems residual, but I don't think it has anything to do with being traumatic or anything like that. It's just probably what she enjoyed doing.
Well, she needs to put out some cookies. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, you're telling me about it.
So really, technically then, if you're talking about like a hospital where a lot of people have died over the years, you don't feel like that they particularly stay there?
Now some do, because hospitals do tend to have a lot of activity.
Yeah, they do. I don't know that,
I really don't know.
because Jane Chen, you go over there. That place is
Oh,
a.
Jane Chen. The old St. John's was that
Mhm.
way. The old
Freeman.
The current Freeman.
The
McHugh
new
Brooks. Yeah, the
On
staff,
32nd.
staff talk about it, especially Oak Hill. No, I was trying to think. Oak Hill, the old Oak Hill one, has a lot of activity.
I can imagine.
People who work there say.
The place is creepy just looking at it.
So.
I don't know why.
But again, part of that may for some maybe because they were confused or not sure what happened to them at the end. And then I think also you tend to get a lot of activity in hospitals that is staff, doctors and nurses.
That's true.
People who worked there, they're
It's
interviewed.
yeah, they put so much energy into helping people that would make sense.
Mm-hmm. I know the old McHugh Brooks in Carthage, for years, even when it was still a hospital, they didn't really use the top of the building for years, and staff would say you could go up there and just watch shadows and so forth, and there'd be times that you would watch, and it would be legs and feet of a nurse. You'd be the nurse's shoes and everything, just walking around and hearing like gurneys roll around. That's common in hospitals. I'm not sure what they're doing over there.
It's either a huge squirrel or a kid.
It's a kid. There's a couple of kids there.
So, now I need to ask you another question. You don't mind?
No.
So why do you not see generally the entire person? Why is it that you see like
Enough
lights?
energy to manifest.
Yeah.
That would be my guess.
And I think it's kind of different for different spirits too. Some seem to come through as shadow people. Some as just energy. Some as a partial apparition. It seems like and that's not entirely true all the time, but a lot of the full-bodied ones are ones that have been around for a really long time. It seems you see a lot of those old ones. Now, we've had experience otherwise, like in Kendrick and Fort Scott.
But that was a full body, though.
That was a full body and fairly recent.
Right.
Within the last.
No, I was thinking
years.
Kendrick was a really old one, but doesn't show up as a full body.
Right, that's true.
It's a black mass.
So what difference does it make that it's been a long time?
I would say, again, amount of energy. It just
Yeah.
how much energy it's able to
So you
manipulate.
think as time goes on, it becomes more.
I think some do at least.
Ability, maybe the more ability to manipulate energy.
Just learning how to use it.
Right. I would say the newer they are, the less likely they would know how.
I mean, just kind of like anyone, you're going to get some that just naturally get it quicker or whatever.
Of course, then you can say, well, what about mass consciousness? Why wouldn't they know that information?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess that's a question we should ask. Maybe we'll get an answer. How come some? It's worth a shot. What the heck?
Well, that's true.
Why is it some of you can? Of course, then again, you have to be careful about that because some of them don't know that they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be.
So if they don't know
To
that
word
they're
that.
dead, would that create a problem?
It can.
It can.
Problem with what though?
How so?
Oh, you mean manifesting?
No, would it create a problem? Would they, like in the real life, would they freak out?
I think it does.
I would think it's
can.
undue stress. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's certainly some that you run across that aren't aware of their condition that are very upset and believe that they are alive. And Marvin, for one, at the Olivia, I'm really not sure that telling Marvin that he's passed would be soothing to him at all.
Though, but you think about that, if you tell him that he's passed, and he gets the opportunity to move on, he wouldn't continue to relive that horrific event.
But
So
then,
it's 6 1, half a dozen the other. Do you take the chance of telling him and throwing him into more shock, or just let him keep living the horrendous way he died?
Well, if you just kind of look at it towards the human psyche, there are a lot of people who can't face certain realities anyway, and forcing them to creates more of a mental breakdown. And we really don't know what it's our arrogance that assumes that we know how it works for them on the other side.
Well, I know.
Well, I know I'm talking to the
I know
choir.
everything.
Well, then tell us.
No, I can't tell you.
You're holding out on us.
Yes.
Well, you could make this a lot more interesting.
No, some people don't want to know. They don't want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Well, that's very true.
Name that movie.
It's A Few Good Men.
I know that.
Oh.
Here's another one that's good. Is churches.
Oh, really?
Well, a lot of people, I think, assume that churches don't have activity because they're a church and consecrated, etc. But around the world, there are a lot of churches that do have activity now, or in other religious buildings. And then you also have people who say that nothing negative can be in a church. And I don't see that as the case either. There's certainly tales from Europe that would indicate otherwise.
Well, growing up in the religion that I did, excuse me, you always, you were always told that if you were at church, nothing bad could happen to you. But that was definitely proven wrong when the tornado hit Joplin.
Well,
That's true too.
Again, I think it's our human vanity that tells us those things. That gives us something that we can latch on to.
I don't know that it's so much vanity as, well, I'm not going to get into that.
Oh, come on.
I could say it's controlling of the masses.
Well, yeah, I do think that.
You know, I mean,
I don't know that to me, it wasn't that way. It was just the fact that it was comforting to know that if you were in church, you couldn't be touched.
I've been touched in churches.
Not that way. But you were, safe. So
Maybe she knows something you don't remember. I don't know.
I knew I blocked out my childhood for a reason.
So what do you think then that churches are have the activity? What, because things happen to people in them, or
I think it could go back to like the hospitals. You have people that devote their lives to this, whatever that may be, and that's what they're comfortable doing. So when they pass on, they're going to continue to live that way.
And for many, it's not even a matter of just it being a job, say, a doctor or a nurse at a hospital, but it's their, not only their vocation, but their worldview. So much of their identity is wrapped up into their role in the church that they remain. And I think that's the one thing that a lot of people kind of forget, is that there really is a component of free will in this, I think, on the part of spirit.
Yeah, people assume that we pass on and we lose all free will or anything, and I don't think that that's the case at all.
No, and I think that's the misconception, at least from the way things have happened that I've observed, of people assuming that, if they're here, they can't move on. I think for most of them it is a choice.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that say that, that they do work to help people try to move on. And I don't know that it's, yeah, well, but I don't know that that's all right. You know what I mean? I don't know that it's number one, you would have to tell them that they are dead to be able to do that, so that they know to move on. Number two, is it all right to tell them that? I mean, if they're happy with what they're doing, who cares?
Right.
And where are they moving on to? The collective? I mean, it depends on what your faith system is. They're moving on to the light, whatever that is, but the collective?
No one really knows. I mean,
I know.
Until you get there. Well, of course but you've been bribed to be quiet, so.
Right, by the spirits.
by UFO people.
There you go.
Aliens.
But no, I do agree there. I think it's the human conception of that I have to know that there's something positive on the other side. So if they move on, that helps me feel secure that there is something positive on the other side.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, I see where you're coming from. I don't think it's all right. I really don't.
Well, I mean, we don't really know how things work on the other side, and there's certainly cases that kind of point to there being portals or spirits who cross back and forth over the veil, and obviously, if they're doing that, you would assume that they are aware of their condition and they're doing it for a reason.
Right.
And so, I mean, so if there's a spirit here for a particular reason, and someone's spending their time and energy trying to tell them to move on, it's kind of pointless.
I can't get over the squirrels in the wall.
But then isn't it the bodhisattvas that they reach a certain peak or a certain level of enlightenment, and they refuse to get any more enlightened because they do not want to transcend until everybody on the planet can pay.
Yeah, but that's not always true, though, because Paramahansa Yogananda controlled his own death in that same idea. I don't
Well,
know.
I'm not saying that it's necessarily that they're here in human form.
Oh. And we all say, we say that, they come back to help. There's watchers, there's obviously
spirits.
protect spirit guides of all sorts. We think they can cross back and forth from wherever to wherever.
And as our understanding of the universe and physics gets better, we may understand that more. Because there's a lot of theories that if we're dealing with multiple dimensions, we may be thinking someone's moving on, but it's whether or not they go to a different dimension. Maybe they are actually in another dimension, and that's why we perceive them as an apparition or a shadow, etc. We don't really know enough. They've just proven in the last year that that on a quantum level, matter can exist separate from its properties. They've been able to isolate and separate electrons, their mass, from their function of spinning. And so you start going down that road, and it's the Cheshire cat illustration is what they're terming it, that you can have the grin without the cat and the cat without the grin. Well, perhaps on that
That's
line,
creepy.
perhaps down the line, that means we can prove that you do have an entity, and the EVP, the disembodied voice, is that separated property on a quantum level.
Science in your faces.
That was way
One
too
of
deep.
my favorite shows, Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
That was a good show.
It was a good show.
I got to see it the other day on one of those satellite companies.
One of those-
Which.
One of those satellite companies out there.
But when we lived down by the spook light, we had a lot of activity of animals.
Mhm.
In fact, and if one of them we know didn't belong to us, it was apparently belonged to the house because it's a little yellow cat.
Mhm.
And many times we saw it. Jim would see it following me, and one time I was out on the front porch and looked up, and there it was in the window,
Mhm.
looking at us. And then one other time, we had lost 2 dogs, and I was backing out of the drive and looked in my side mirror, and I said, "Well, there's the dogs."
Mhm.
No, the dogs were not there in physical form, but they were definitely in that mirror.
Yeah.
That's what I was telling you. That property out there there's something about that property
Oh,
that,
yeah, there is.
that just, I think it's,
The whole area, I
it's partially the whole area and that a lot to do with the spook light. There's something about that whole, maybe mile square or so that it's just odd. It's got a weird energy about it. It's good, but you experience a lot of stuff out there.
Well, when we would transition from the pond back down to the house, there was at a certain area that you could feel the difference in the energies.
Well, that whole area may, in some sense, be not necessarily a portal, but a transition point for energy to come back and forth. And
That's what the spook light is.
well,
That's why you don't see it all the time.
well, and there's times
Maybe.
there's times that you see it, but only from one direction. That people can be apart and appear between you, and only be seen from one direction.
Really?
Hmm. That's happened to me before.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Hmm. So.
It's true.
So
But they've changed the grade of the road now, which I've heard has disrupted the ability to see it as much.
Well, it's just seen in other areas.
Oh, we saw it go around. I've seen it go around when we lived out there, go around the house.
Right.
And that, them grading the road didn't have anything to do with that.
No.
Well, and a lot of people who've lived out there, for well over 100 years have stories of it coming up to their houses, their barns, etc.
Oh, like that gentleman that lived down at the corner, it was following him when he was plowing his field.
Huh.
Mr. Chester McMahon. It's in Haunted Heartland, I think. It's in that book, the story of that.
Well, I recount several of them in Haunted Joplin, and there's a book from the 50s that has a bunch of the stories in it too. So, yeah, I mean, it's not just something that is just in one area or just along the road, and so, you just don't know.
But that is where I did see like a UFO one time.
Okay.
And
What was that?
Had the ghost enter. The ghost.
Poltergeist.
Oh,
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Mhm.
Love to see a poltergeist.
was he really?
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of honored.
Well, yeah. I really can't argue that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be fun.
It'd be fun to be one. Just mess with people. Just drop stuff every once in a while.
Wouldn't be much of a
But I'd
change
only
for
do
you, would it?
But I'd only do it when one person's in the house, so that would make that one person feel insane.
And no one else believed them.
Yeah.
Y'all are kind of mean. That's just all.
We get bored. See, that's what happens when you let us get bored.
So what about the history on the Prosperity Schoolhouse?
Really nothing
That's
there.
why I'm here. I want to.
That's Lisa.
What's going on?
That's history's Lisa's area of expertise. I can't remember what I did last week. Actually, I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
There's probably eggs.
It was, I'm sure, with cheese and
Predictable.
hot sauce.
Predictable. No, Prosperity School was built in 1907. Prosperity at the time was a very thriving community. There were over 1,500 people living there.
Wow.
A mining community. There were 9 major mines there.
Wow.
But before that, that land, had different Civil War skirmishes. Indians were through there. So there does seem to be activity there that is related to Civil War activity as well as later. One interesting thing is that the building is well preserved and it retains the character in a lot of ways of the schoolhouse, even though it's now a bed and breakfast. And
Yeah, they really didn't change a whole lot
yeah, they really didn't.
when
which is kinda
they
neat.
made it a bed and breakfast. It's only 4 bedrooms, so that's 4.
Yeah,
Yeah, 4
suites,
bedrooms.
Yeah.
So that was like the classrooms and stuff like that, and then the cafeteria, the dining area, is the cafeteria. They really didn't change how the layout of the building was, which is cool.
It is really cool, and that you had people that worked there for decades, the teachers and the janitor and so forth, and you in the building. And an interesting thing is you have a lot of really trigger objects too, because there's a lot of things in the building that pertain to the school and the local area. A lot of photos, mementos, different things. And so to me, I think there's a lot of things there that retain energy. And, it was a school up into the 60s, and then it sat empty for about 30 years and was very dilapidated. And
For those that don't know what dilapidated means, it means run down.
he's a mess today.
Or Wikipedia.com,
Your Wikipedia.com.
Dictionary.com, whatever. People throw those big words at me. I gotta look this crap up. I don't know what that means.
Oh,
Bull.
you just told us what it meant, so.
Yeah, you didn't
I had to look it up.
You did not.
I did too.
You did not. You don't fool us.
Okay.
Anyway,
Carry on.
To carry on. The building sat empty for about for about 30 years into the 90s, and then was purchased and started to be restored. And fortunately, they really did keep the character of the building. But it's basically what's left of the community. And I think there's a lot of energy attached to it, almost retaining that community, not necessarily just the school, I think. But it's very active.
Well, it just goes back to the old thing that you can't destroy energy, it just changes form. Is that not correct?
Mm-hmm.
That is scientifically proven.
Yeah. And activity happens there on a very regular basis. Some places it's more sporadic, but there does seem to be activity pretty much all the time there. I don't know that I haven't been there when I haven't experienced something even visually. Usually there's a shadow person.
Yeah, I did see a shadow person. That's what she was trying to do, is get me to start talking. Is what she brought that up.
I've never seen a shadow person.
You haven't seen a shadow
I
person?
don't believe so.
I've
a
seen
lot
several.
of little wisp of things, and that one that smacked me in the face that time. But
You probably deserved it.
I probably did.
I mean, a shadow person is in essence just a person, but not enough energy to form
So what does it look like exactly?
a walking person shadow.
Like
Yeah.
a silhouette
Or
of a person.
it's a darker than normal shadow.
Yeah, sort of darker than black almost.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of times you think it might be a shadow,
But
but,
it's upright, not like a shadow on the ground.
Yeah, no,
well,
sometimes they cast their own shadow.
a shadow person is generally upright.
Yeah,
Now, a shadow, just a black mass,
can be anywhere.
can be whatever.
I've seen them out at the battlefield on the ground, moving, a mass.
The one at Kendrick just kind of falls over and does whatever.
Mm-hmm. It usually kind of stays up stairs and then kind of sneaks up on people.
Hmm. Or if you ask it to come over, it will. Come on over. Yeah, John, you're a dumbass. Anyway.
Yeah, and speaking of being blacker than shadow, because that was a good example, because when the mass descended around you, it totally blocked him out.
I believe I must have seen a shadow person. Now that you mention it.
Oh?
Yeah. The other day, it was going between our houses. Because I looked and I thought it was somebody, and then looked again and there was nobody.
That's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing a shadow person in Oklahoma City in the Hobby Lobby parking lot. She was waiting to pick Tristan up one time, and it walked behind the car and never came out the other side of the car. I saw it in the rearview mirror and never saw it after that.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
But now these have the shape of people, or they don't have the shape?
A shadow person does. I mean, it looks like a person, but a little more than a silhouette, because you can at times see them turn and everything, and so it has the perception of being three-dimensional.
That's what it was.
very dark.
Very
Very dark. That's probably one of the key factors there, I think, is to be able to determine it from another shadow in the room.
Mm-hmm.
It's much darker.
Than the rest of the
You
shadow.
can't see through. You can see through a shadow. You can't see through a shadow person, generally.
Mm-mm.
So,
And some of them are clear enough that you can see the outline of what they're wearing. I mean, I've seen Civil War soldier in uniform before. Even at the Joplin Library, saw one time walking through the main area towards what would have been the elevator shaft in the Conner Hotel, and you could see, where his belt was. You could see where his shirt was
That
tucked
might be
in.
some of our relatives. You never know.
Well, that's true.
They work there.
Well, and I just, I wondered maybe it was someone, either in construction of the hotel or that worked there or something, and, arms swinging and very much
Name
just.
wasn't Fred, was it?
He didn't stop and say. I've seen shadow people where they turn and look at you like they're aware of you. And usually if they seem to be aware of you, they turn and go the other direction. But at Prosperity School, there generally are shadow people there. And size doesn't seem to be always relative to, age in life, but they do seem to be smaller, like children.
Go ahead and talk. I'm having
Okay.
some problems with the microphone here. So,
Okay.
But
And
I just noticed it.
usually going up and down the hallway. I've seen a couple of times, been there at different times, where it's like someone comes to the dining room, stops, leans in the doorway, and then keeps going. And then they've been spotted upstairs too, in the hallway. You have all kinds of activity. There are lots of EVPs, things related to a couple of the teachers that seem to be there. One of them in particular has been pretty adamant that she can make herself visible. We haven't taught her, but that she says that she's able to. And often, if you're in the downstairs dining area, sitting area, you will hear what sounds like, chairs being moved, and whether the kids eating or maybe someone cleaning up, that kind of thing. You have situations where water faucets turn on by themselves.
That's heck on the water bill, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be. They have one suite in particular that happens in, and they've had it looked at numerous times, and no one can explain why it happens. But the bathtub faucet will come on and off, and they can't explain why. There's one suite that has a lot of distortion in the room that often doesn't matter where you put a camera in there, that if you have someone and then someone comes in the room, it's like there's distortion between the camera and that person no matter where they walk. There's stories of people staying there and in the middle of the night being woken up with the sensation of, say, a child crawling into bed with them, things like that. One woman in particular told the story that she was spending the night, and in the middle of the night she thought, felt like one of her kids had gotten into bed, and she was really not real awake and didn't think about it, and woke up in the morning and remembered and rolled over and then realized the kids weren't with her. So you have all kinds of things like that. And then, Prosperity School is kind of just has its own urban legend in the area. I think because it sat empty for a long time, and you'd have kids get in there and everything and scare themselves, and so you've had stories of hauntings for a long time, and but it's one that I think is very valid. There is activity there. And I find it interesting because you have activity from, it seems, different time periods, when it was a school and then even before the building was there, because you get responses to things about the Civil War going on there. And so, it's just one of those places that's really neat and a link to the past. What did you think of it, Tristan?
Of what?
Prosperity, when you were there before.
It's an okay place. I mean, I forgot what room it was, but when you first go up the stairs, that door to the left, there's a lot of energy in that room.
Yeah,
But the rest of the place, it didn't give anything, so.
Yeah, that's the room that the teacher seems always to come through very strong, and that she wants to make herself visible.
Yeah, because when Dad and I were first touring the house, when we walked in there, it felt like we walked into like a brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of energy.
Yeah, and that one and the other one on that side, same side of the building, seemed to be the most active upstairs. I think that people, if they come out to the tour, one thing is it's a way to experience the building more economically than having to rent a room, and can really experience what it's like to be on a live investigation. And you're back.
Yeah, I was hiding. Actually, I was just checking the volume. It sounds, I don't know.
Does it sound okay?
Yeah, it sounds fine. It's a little, there's a background noise, but
Well, the air conditioning just came on.
so.
Yeah.
Did you talk to them about the lady that they see in the mirror in that bathroom?
No, I didn't talk
There's
about that.
Which I don't remember which bedroom it is. If it's on the, actually, yeah, I think it's on the
The north side there.
Northwest side.
Northeast, I think. Isn't it northeast?
No, because that bathroom is no.
Oh, it's the other one. You're right. I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure it's that, because that's the one we couldn't get into because that's where they're staying
Right.
at. And they'll look in the bathroom mirror and there'll be a lady standing behind them, like a school marm type figure.
She doesn't have a ruler out ready to whack them, does she?
No.
Not that anyone mentioned.
The funny thing is I picked up on her before I knew that story. So yeah, she's there. I don't know if she's the shadow person or not, but I don't think so.
I kind of think not, and I wonder if she's the teacher that comes through across the hall, in the other room.
Could be.
In Pink's room, and she's in theirs where we've had her tell us that she wants to make herself visible to us. I'd love for that to happen.
Absolutely. Come on and get visible.
Now there is
Visible.
another story of a nurse being seen in that little hallway.
Just like a Nurse Jackie nurse, or
No, like a nurse in an old nursing outfit, probably from the 50s or 60s.
So why is she there? Because of the school?
That's what we. That's
Big
what,
guess.
I mean, that's what everyone assumes. There's a cabinet that's in that little hallway, and they have it full of linens now. And it was, I guess, it was in the basement when they bought the building, and they brought it up and used it. And she's been seen by different people, and in an old-time nurse's outfit, hair up in a bun and everything, standing in front of it, almost as if she's taking medicine or bottles off the cabinet. So they wonder if maybe at some point it was used as nursing supplies, medical supplies, and but no one really knows who she is or why she's there. But
I think she looks like she's from the 50s. She wouldn't be like from Civil War times, but maybe she was.
The way they describe her, no, because she's got the white hat and the white dress and the white stockings and the whole bit. So,
was she early 20s, late 20s?
they didn't mention. John will have to find out.
Wow. Me a little nursey ghost. Hi, mama.
And Tristan rolls his eyes.
You're going to feel funny when she
She
comes
shows
on
up.
to you.
I will run.
You'd scream like a little girl,
I
wouldn't
would.
you?
I'd squall. Get out of the way, see a fat man run, because I ain't stopping.
Careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
You look like you're on the Fat Boy Relay.
Yeah. The fat boy relay. Don't laugh. We actually ran a fat boy relay when I was in school.
It is true. Very true.
We were pretty fast,
Yeah?
but we were fat.
You weren't fat. You were all just football players.
We're all linemen.
There you go.
Literally, there was guys like 300 pounds on this
That's
relay
right.
team. But he ran 100 yards in 11 seconds.
That's pretty good.
That's big boy.
Don't get in his way.
No. But yeah, it was pretty funny. But yeah, I love Prosperity Schoolhouse. It's a neat place. The guys that owns it just add some character to the place.
Yeah, Richard. He's a nice guy, but quite a character.
He's a character. Whew. He drinks coffee out of a beer bottle, so don't let him fool you.
Yeah, he does.
He does it just to annoy the neighbors, because says he has a neighbor that spies on him. So he's got his coffee in a beer bottle. So they say he's drinking all day when all he's doing is drinking coffee.
And you smell it. It's coffee.
Yeah, but to meet him, you'd think he was drunk and getting drunker.
But that's just Richard.
It's just Richard.
Maybe it's what's in the coffee.
No,
No.
it smells like plain old coffee.
Yeah,
Well, vodka doesn't have any smell, does it?
Yeah, that's true.
that's true.
Not in stuff, it doesn't.
No.
You can't smell it.
You know,
Mhm.
isn't that what they call a nice pick is tea and vodka?
I don't know, Mother. How would you know this?
Yeah.
I am 63 years old.
And a lush, apparently.
I pay attention to what people tell me.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
On how to make them, maybe.
You didn't know she's bartending?
Oh, yeah.
Now we're gonna have to smell your tea every time.
The only thing I ever remember my mother making, though, was margaritas.
In a gallon jug.
In a gallon jug. That's no lie. That's no lie.
They was pretty tasty.
Yeah, they were pretty good. Not that I'd know.
No, you never got into that gallon jug, did you?
No. I was old enough at some point.
At some point.
She hasn't made those in a long time, though.
We should do that.
We should. It's summertime. We need some margaritas.
Summertime.
So, people, you definitely should come out to Prosperity tomorrow night. We're gonna have a big crowd there. We've already got 11 people prepaid on it. That's
Mhm.
pretty good.
Yeah, because we usually get a lot more pay at the door than
Yeah, so that should be a lot of fun. And I'll remind people tomorrow night, I would like everybody to be cautious when pulling out. I'm not staying there till 1 o'clock in the morning again, or 2, or whenever it was, because somebody ran over the ditch.
retaining wall.
The retaining wall, and high-centered their car in the ditch, retaining wall thing. Had to get a wrecker up there to lift them up over the retaining. They drove off, though.
Yeah.
I don't remember what kind of car that was, but I'm impressed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed they didn't run the oil pan.
So, yeah, didn't run the oil pan. It didn't even sound like it had an exhaust leak.
Mm-mm.
So
Yeah, I walked down inside it. It's like,
it's gonna be a late night.
not sure how that happened, but
Maybe we should. We don't have any cones, do we?
You could go find some construction place and borrow them for the evening.
Well, they're doing.
You might borrow them right out.
I'm not
here.
gonna say where they're doing construction near us, but there might be some cones there.
Just take every other one.
Yeah, they wouldn't notice.
Nah.
There's not 400 cops in that neighborhood.
No, not at all.
There weren't any the other night when that big building caught fire.
Oh, that's true.
Till they called them.
Heck of a deal. Yeah, tell them to come to Prosperity School. They get to meet the crew.
There you go.
Put a face with the voice.
There you go.
No one wants to see my face.
That's not true.
It's a
You're
cute
beautiful.
face.
See,
There you
if family members agree, then no one wants to see my face.
Well, I agree.
It's only a face a grandmother and a dad could love.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Not true at
Little
all.
stinker pot.
No, but seriously, come out. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I mean, we've got a little short-handed tomorrow night, but
I want to see a shadow person.
I want Mom to see a shadow person.
Make sure that what I've seen. Because, I think there's a lot of times you see things and you don't really realize what it is.
Well, a lot of people dismiss it
Yeah.
because they don't know what it is, and they,
Or they
don't
don't-
want to know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't want it to
Yeah.
be anything.
They don't want it to be a shadow person. They want it to be a shadow.
So, some of the encounters I've had, we got a few minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
I asked the resident smart person here.
Tristan?
Couple times, once I had a real physical encounter with this looks like smoke
Mm-hmm.
thick smoke, only when it hits you in the face, literally, it's kind of like dampish cool with no smell. My first thought was when it was coming toward me, I thought, who in the heck is smoking in this auditorium?
Well, I usually call them mists, and because they can be white, they can be different, various colors, they can be black. I had a physical encounter with one once too. The black one, it literally hit me in the chest, and to the point where it felt physically like something had hit me. But often you have a drop in temperature.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I knew I'd been smacked in the face.
Yeah, there definitely is. You want to say a physical component to it, because
I have to wonder sometimes though if those mists actually have consciousness, in a way.
well, I do too. Just
They
like
just kind of float around and
Well,
That maybe not known
I
that it
think
was-
because in this area that place was supposed to be haunted.
you thought it had consciousnness or it was just floating around?
I think it had. I think anything like that has a consciousness. I saw one in the bedroom at the house down by the spook light go across the ceiling. I think it was Grandpa Sidney, but it was after he passed on. Just stopped in to say howdy.
That wouldn't surprise me. He probably when he stole the ring back.
What ring?
Remember that ring of his that I had?
I thought we had it after that.
Mm-mm.
Well, maybe we did.
Well, we had it, but I put it in my sock drawer before we went on vacation because I didn't want to take it with me and lose it, and I didn't want somebody to steal it if they broke in. Came back, it was gone. Never saw it again. Haven't seen it since. The big one with the
His initials.
no, it didn't have his initials. This is the one he bought off the Navajo. It was the Navajo's own personal stash.
turquoise. Or,
Yeah, it was big green turquoise. Very obviously handmade. And just gone. Never saw it again. No, I don't have any idea what happened to it.
I've had things disappear like that too before in the house, even related to.
It still makes me sick because I loved that ring, and he used to wear it a lot. So it was, but like I said, I didn't want to take it with me because I didn't want to lose it, vacation. So I thought I was put it in the drawer. It's gone. Never saw it again.
Well,
I always thought someday I'd run across it, thinking, maybe it fell in somewhere or something.
So, okay, now I have another question.
Okay.
There's 4 questions tonight.
That's
You are.
good.
You're full of something.
Okay, first of all, people out here, I don't know if it's people that listen all the time, but explain what EVP stands for.
okay. Electronic voice phenomena, something that's caught on an audio recording that wasn't heard at the time physically.
Okay. Getting back to the mists,
Mhm.
and you say that they're different colors. The only ones I've ever seen have been whitish. Whitish to clearish, What makes a difference in the color? Do we know?
I had
One's
no-
negative and one's positive.
One's demonic.
Don't listen to that.
I'm not.
I don't know. I mean, because we've caught before they're kind of a purplish.
Seen
tint to
purplish
it.
pink.
Ooh, I'd like to see a purplish pink one.
It was pretty.
Yeah, we have video of that.
No, I saw one with my eyes
Mhm.
that was purple and pink.
Well,
I would love to have video of that. I wish I'd had video of that one. That was just wild.
but you don't know who or what.
I know it. Now, I thought about that later, and since the slave stairs was there, it could have been that. That's what it could have been.
It could have been. That's true.
A remnant spirit
But
walking through there.
so many of them do seem to move as if they're under intelligent control. Like the one that went up the fireplace. I mean, it came on camera, comes down the hallway, and it comes in the room, and there's people there, and literally changes direction and goes up the firebox.
That's very obviously a lens flare.
Yeah.
Sorry, we had somebody do that on the Facebook page. We're like,
Yeah. Yeah. Camera doesn't move, but it moves. multiple directions. It's lens flare.
Yeah, it's lens flare.
As it
Camera's
goes,
in the same spot.
as it goes across the room.
And the lens flare went up the chimney. Very 3D up the chimney.
Mm-hmm. Very obviously. But, I mean, and then the black mass or mist, it definitely seems to be under intelligent control.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The one up there at the
It can
Kendrick.
be. Mm-hmm.
It's not
It's not.
there to hurt anyone
No.
intentionally. I think unless, of course, they provoke it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's protective of them.
I think it's protective too. And you know, I thought about that later. That was the same day that Jackie was there.
Yeah, I thought about that later too.
And I'm wondering if that had anything to do with him being there. Because we hadn't seen it in...
Oh, quite a while.
Who's Jackie?
Jackie was Carrot's sister.
Yeah, Carol's sister.
Carol Fanny.
She was was actually the last family owner of the house and sold it to Victorian Carthage to be a museum. So and she was born in the house.
So she was there at Cowgirl Days. And it was cool to meet her. It really was. She's in her 80s.
We're talking about a real person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you bounce around between.
Oh well.
Well, because us, there's no different usually.
Well, yeah, and of course we know the people there so well, but yeah, and it was very nice because she's very supportive of.
She
what we're
was.
doing.
She was just super sweet. I mean, just as nice as can be.
But that has been there when she wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
But it hadn't been there for quite a while that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And then just so happens the day that she was there, it shows up
And
and tries to eat me.
you got a little glimpse of it during the afternoon, and then it really showed up during the investigation
Mm-hmm.
that night. So it was around all day.
So did it seem bigger that day?
Bigger?
Bigger, I mean,
It can grow. I mean, it changes.
It looks,
shape.
yeah, it's...
so it could be that it's taken on some, as more people are there, it takes on a little more energy.
Could have been.
Could have been. It's also been seen when there's not very many people in the house too. So, and then
I still can't tell you what it is. I mean, and I've had direct contact.
Me
I don't
too.
know.
Yeah, I mean, it's what hit me in the chest. Seems mean that way.
We got about 2 minutes left, so... But yeah, I mean, that's an interesting phenomenon. I don't know.
I hope over time that we figure it out more.
Well, now that hopefully it'll talk. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, communicate more.
All it said was carrot. I have
Did
no
you
idea.
say that?
Yeah, which I thought about that later too. We have audio over the Echo Box of them saying they're scared of Carrot.
Mm-hmm.
So what was Carrot?
Carrot was a little girl. She died.
Was
She
she the
was
one
young.
that peeks out the window?
No, she had. That's Pauline. Kara was actually only not quite 3 years old.
And they're scared of Carrot?
That's what they've said.
Yeah, which
I don't know
doesn't
how
make
much. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, maybe it's what Carrot, did Carrot die from a disease or something?
Yes, she died of polio.
Polio.
She came down with polio and came down sick and died within about 36 hours.
So maybe they were afraid that they would contract the same thing.
I don't know. I just get the idea it's much older. It's almost like connected to the ground. If
Yeah.
that makes any sense.
I think it knows the family.
I don't think it's one of them though.
No, I'm not sure that it's one of them. Maybe Carrot's why it's there,
Maybe it's looking over Carrot. I don't know.
but that's all I know.
Yeah.
And after that's kind of draining
Mm-hmm.
because it'll suck the life right out of you.
It does. It does.
It was a trip.
It's definitely got a lot of energy.
And it has a lot, and it's hard to... Control's a bad word, but to keep control of your own self
And
during
then-
an encounter.
Yeah, and there's been people who have not done as well in the past.
But, and I'm still foggy. No, that's just the beer. But we're at the end of our show, so I hope everybody comes out tomorrow night. We should have a good time.
Yes, it's going to be a good one.
$20 for adults, $5 for kids under 12. Proceeds go to help maintain the house and keep it what it is and maintain history.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we're all about as a team, and that's our focus. So that's what we do. Yo.
There you go. You come on out and see our crazy personalities.
I'm normal. They're crazy.
Come out and you be the judge.
That's not fair. You're a lawyer.
I'm telling them to judge, not me.
I know. You get to be the judge, lawyer. Get it?
I get it.
Took you a minute. Anyway,
It's been a long day.
I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight. We appreciate you tuning into our little show. Sorry about the microphone issue earlier. Hopefully, wasn't
We
too bad.
appreciate it.
Everybody have a good night.
Night. See you next week.